Hey, welcome back to Hustle to Harmony. I am your host, Johanna, and today we are diving into stage one of what I call the Sacred Interruption process. This is the performance era. And if you're listening to this and you're like, what the heck is performance era? I'm just working really hard and getting things done. Then this episode is especially for you because the performance era is the stage where you don't even know you're performing. You think this is just what success looks like, and it's not. Performance era is when I'm fine becomes your default response to everything, even when you're absolutely not fine. It's when you've gotten so good at holding everything together that everyone around you thinks you have it all figured out. Your business is growing, your calendar is packed, you're hitting deadlines, and you are crushing your goals. From the outside, you look so successful, but inside you are cracking piece by piece. You probably don't even realize that you're cracking because you become so good at the performance. You've trained yourself to push through exhaustion, to smile through stress. You have to say, I am fine, so convincingly that even you believe it sometimes. You wake up super tired, but tell yourself you just need more coffee. You work through lunch because there's just too much to do, and you answer emails at 10 flipping p.m. because it's just easier to stay on top of things. And when somebody asks you how you're doing, you automatically say, great, so busy, but great, because that is what successful people say. And this is what makes the performance era so dangerous, because it's not just working hard. This is perfectionism disguised as professionalism. You have convinced yourself that your high standards are what make you successful, that your attention to detail is the thing that sets you apart, that your ability to handle everything yourself is what makes you so valuable. But that is a mask. The perfectionism mask shows up in so many ways. Maybe you're redoing your work that's already really good because it's not perfect. Or you say yes to every single opportunity because you don't want to miss a thing. You're checking your email obsessively because you don't want to keep anybody waiting. You take on extra work because you don't trust anyone else to do it right. Or you're working nights and weekends because there's always more to do. And the most insidious part is that you've convinced yourself that this is what it takes to be successful. You look at other entrepreneurs who seem to be more relaxed and think like, they just must not be as committed as I am. But you're not seeing that those less committed entrepreneurs might actually be more successful because they're not burning themselves out trying to be perfect. This perfectionism isn't making you more valuable. It's making you exhausted. And the tricky thing about burnout in the performance era is that it doesn't look like this dramatic collapse you see in movies. It's not lying in bed unable to move. It's much more subtle and more dangerous. There are 5 patterns to this that I want you to think about. We're going to go over them one by one. Pattern 1 is the adrenaline addiction. You have gotten so used to operating in crisis mode that you don't know how to function without urgency. You create emergencies where none exist because your nervous system is addicted to the adrenaline rush. Pattern 2 is the productivity theater. You are constantly busy but not necessarily productive. You spend hours on tasks that could take minutes because you're too tired to think clearly, but you can't admit it to yourself. This is where most people are. And then we have pattern 3. It's the emotional shutdown. You have gotten so good at pushing through stress that you have stopped even noticing it. You don't feel anxious or overwhelmed anymore. You just feel numb. And you mistake that numbness for being fine. Pattern 4, the moving goalpost every time you achieve something. Instead of celebrating, you immediately move the goalpost. Once I hit 6 figures, then I'll relax. Once I have more clients, then I'll take a break. Once the business is more established, then I'll slow down. But the goalpost keeps moving because the problem wasn't about reaching that milestone. It's because you've built your success on a foundation that requires you to sacrifice yourself. The next one's pattern 5, the comparison trap. You look at other entrepreneurs and think that you're not working hard enough because you're not posting about working 16-hour days. Or you feel guilty for being tired because other people seem to handle more than you do. You have lost touch with what normal actually looks like because you've been performing for so long. Here's what happens to your body during the performance era, even when you're telling yourself you're fine. Your sleep gets disturbed. You are either lying awake thinking about work, or you're so tired you crash, but you wake up feeling completely unrested. Your digestion your digestion gets really weird. You're eating on the go, you're skipping meals, you're stress eating without realizing it, and your stomach doesn't feel right. Your immune system starts to struggle. You get sick more often, or you're constantly fighting something off, right? There's always a sniffle, a cough, a tickle in your throat. Your hormones get completely out of whack. Your periods might be irregular, your energy crashes at weird times, or you feel wired, but you're exhausted. Your body is trying to tell you something, but you've gotten so good at overriding its signals that you don't even hear them anymore. You pop another supplement, you drink another coffee, you push through another day, and you tell yourself that this is just temporary. Just until things slow down, just until you get ahead. But things are not going to slow down because you keep saying yes to more, and you don't get ahead because you're running on a hamster wheel of your own creation. The end of performance era usually comes with what I call a sacred interruption. Something forces you to stop performing, even if it's just temporary. Maybe you get sick and actually have to rest. I know so many people that this happened to, like hospital sick. Maybe you have a panic attack and you can't explain why. Maybe you snap at someone you care about and you realize that you're not as fine as you thought, right? A simple little, hey, mommy, or what's for dinner? And you're like, stop asking me questions. Or maybe it's a little more subtle. Maybe you're sitting in your car or at your desk at the end of a long day and you realize that you can't remember the last time you felt genuinely happy. Maybe you look at your calendar and you're like, ugh, instead of being super excited. Maybe you catch yourself in the mirror and you don't recognize that exhausted person looking back at you. This is the moment when the awareness starts to creep in, and it's not sustainable. This isn't what your success is supposed to feel like. This isn't the life you wanted when you started your business. And awareness does not equal immediate change. I'm so sorry. Just because you realize you're in this performance era doesn't mean you can flip a switch and operate differently. The patterns you built during this stage run so deep. They're not just habits, they're now nervous system responses. They're ways of being that your body and your brain think are keeping you safe and successful. So if you're listening and you're recognizing yourself in this performance era, what are we going to do? First, stop trying to fix everything at once. The perfectionist in you is going to want to completely overhaul your life immediately, and I don't want you to do that. That's just more performance. We're going to start with awareness. Start noticing when you automatically say, I'm fine, when you're not. Start paying attention to how your body actually feels instead of just pushing through. Start questioning whether that urgent task is actually urgent or if it just feels that way because you're used to treating everything like an emergency. Ask yourself these questions. If I wasn't performing success, what would my life actually look like? If I didn't have to prove my worth through productivity, how would I spend my time? If I trusted that I was enough just as I am, what would I stop doing? I know that these are not easy questions, and you don't need to answer them immediately, but these are the beginning of the sacred interruption that will eventually lead you out of the performance era and into something way more sustainable. The performance era feels safe because it's familiar and because it gets results, but it's not sustainable, and deep down, I think you know that. The success you're building on burnout and perfectionism is not real success. It is expensive self-destruction with really good marketing. Real success feels different. It doesn't require you to sacrifice your health, your relationships, or your sanity. It doesn't demand that you're on all the time or that you're perfect at everything. If you're ready to stop performing and start actually living, this first step is simply admitting that I'm fine might not be true anymore. I'll see you next time.